there's a statistic that people spend more time planning a vacation than planning their lives.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's, it's just like, if you think about it, you say, oh yeah, how much time have I spent planning my life? And that's just very normal. I mean, especially, as American, Natasha and I are both Americans. There was no plan your life class in school. My parents never sat down and said, let's talk about planning your life. And,
to be honest with you, I also never seen them doing it actively too.
Yes.
Like my parents, so it wasn't something that I've learned also by watching them.
Which is the natural way to learn.
They were talking about it. They are talking about their dreams, their plans, but I never, to be honest with you, see them actually like sitting down and planning it. So yes, like so you are great, guys. Like we need to get your help.
Well, that's on our own. That's part of why we are so, I mean, not just the fact that we're parents and caregivers, but also we also feel like the greatest opportunity for creating change in culture is by empowering parents, because they will, if it's useful to them, they will teach it to their kids, right? Every December, our family sits down and we take out our calendars and we plan our mommy daughter and daddy daughter days and our date nights. We lay them out for the following year. And that's a habit that my daughter will have seen for decades by the time if she has her own family. Because that's the most natural way to learn, is through osmosis. But we're trying to help create that culture change now by teaching parents how to do this so that they can pass it on. And so, this whole idea of prioritization of values, I think most people think that they have values, but if you ask them to name them, they probably wouldn't be able to name them. And if you ask them to put them in hierarchical order, they definitely wouldn't be able to do that, which is why so many times, right, someone has something planned with their family and then they get a job, something to do with their work comes up. And what do they end up picking? And it's like, well, if you really sat down and thought about what are your priorities, you might have picked differently. I'm not saying you would have for sure, because maybe there's a reason to do the work thing. But
there's an urgency or something,
but being really clear about your priorities allows you to establish strong boundaries. And it helps you to say no to certain things, because no, that's not a priority of mine. Actually, that's sort of where this prioritization came from. I heard the story about Richard Branson, and he had spoken to a group of CEOs, and one CEO was so enamored with Richard Branson that the CEO wanted to bring Richard Branson to speak at the CEO's company. And the CEO kept throwing money at Richard Branson's people, like, I'll pay $50,000. And they said, no, I'll pay $200,000. No. And the CEO was like, what will it take? And Richard Branson's people said, sorry, we weren't clear, but Richard has 4 goals. And if speaking at something does not move one of these goals forward, it's an immediate no. And so just to have that kind of clarity, to be able to say, I mean, look, he's Richard Branson, right? $200,000. I make that in a second. But I've had similar opportunities where, look, if you look me up, you will see that I have had a very interesting entrepreneurial journey. And it's part of why I feel like I can talk about this stuff so well, is because I have done a lot of different things in my life. And there was always this bleed over period where when I stopped one thing and started a new thing, people who knew me from the past would say, hey, do you want to do blah, blah, blah thing? And sometimes it was $15,000, $20,000. And because I had become really clear that, nope, this is not what I want my legacy to be, I'm no longer spending my time on it. Here's someone who can help you. I was able to say no, rather than, being seduced by the money, which would then draw my attention away from what I really want to focus on.
And spoiler alert, having these kinds of boundaries circles back around to self-care again. Right. And really being able to, like, having boundaries is also a form of self-care. So yeah, drinking your water and doing your stretching and getting your supplements, self-care, but also having clear boundaries and being committed to the things that is self-care. Right. So it's really, it's very, very helpful. Right. Because I personally have, so Allegra and I, while we have this business together, we're very different though too. So I do want to say that, like, getting my boys, and I mean all three of them, my husband included, to sit down with a calendar at the end of the year, they would break out into hives. There would be a revolt, right? And so we do it a little differently in my home. And you know, like the way it works a lot with our family, like I do on Sunday night, I'll do a thing, we call it the partner page. And I just write out to my husband, like each day, like the things that he needs to know about our life that week, right? Like if you're picking the kid up for this, or I've got this, or we got a game after here, whatever it might be. And our date nights, right? That kind of thing. So he doesn't like to really think too much past, like, you know, tomorrow. So we handle it that way. And, you know, I have hope for us. We can maybe someday and sit down with all of our calendars. But I say this because you know, it's a little bit different for everybody. We not all go ahead and do it this way, but the prioritization thing too, for me personally, like I mentioned earlier, if something comes up in the moment that seems urgent, or, you know, has a pull on me, even if I've got something else planned, my default used to be, I can find a way to squeeze it in, because I hate saying no to things. I've got major FOMO. Like I just like it really, I'm like, I'm going to miss out on something. Right. And realizing that, like, A, I can't physically do it all. B, maybe I really don't want to, just because something's offered to me. I sometimes didn't consider, hey, is this really in alignment, right? Is this really in alignment with what it is that I want to do? And so my default would be, so, you know, maybe if you don't have all of your priorities hierarchically ordered at this moment, look at your habits. What are you saying yes to everything just because somebody is asking you to, right? And that could be anything from a PTA thing to a party to, you know, an event. If I find myself thinking or saying the word squeeze, like, I could squeeze that in, that's a full stop. No, pause. That's a no, right up, just like Richard Branson's no. That for me would be a hard stop no. Now that no could be no to this new opportunity, or it could be like a no, let me stop and, you know, really assess, hey, is this new opportunity more in alignment with what I'm now being with my life, as opposed to what I already have planned. But generally, if I use the word squeeze, and it's been so helpful to me, because Allegra was there yesterday, I said the word squeeze out loud, and I was like, bing, that's my red flag. And so maybe it's not the word squeeze for you. Maybe it's a different word, but like, find out what that thing is that you use to.
It was so funny too, because it was for something for me.
It was something for you. Yeah.
She was like, I was like, when's your daughter's concert? And I told her, and she's like, I think I can squeeze. And I was like, she's not coming.
Yeah. Because I could find a way to squeeze it in. I really could, you know, but it would be making that day even crazier than it already is. Right. And as much as I want to support her daughter, and we love music and I'd love to go to the concert, it's going to have to be a no, especially right now, you know, like we're in that holiday season and post-holiday season now too, where, like, you know, people are getting back to their lives and things, you know, after that whole holiday season. It's a really good time to assess, like, okay, is there something that am I squeezing things in just for the sake of it? Or is it really in alignment with what I say I want to do and be and have?